Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. Music's still going. We've just got that chill time where we're awkwardly talking like we haven't realized I've unmuted us, and so everyone's going to be like, did they know that they've unmuted themselves? We'll be like, well, we did, deliberately. Just that awkward preamble to getting started for fun times, for fun and profit. Actually, I will double check our levels, that we're all right in the video. Oh man, and if I cough, everyone's going to be deaf. Because I don't have a shortcut to mute. We're going all the way. Strap in. For fun times.
Well, someone noticed when
actually, I will
anymore,
double check.
So
Yeah. If people might have just heard me quickly check that the channel audio was working. Yeah, hey, we're not muted anymore. No, we have voices. We don't have faces because we're not at that point yet. But we have voices. So back, in the old days, man, when life was tough, we used to stream without microphones. As engagement was really difficult. Oh. And yes, you need to be, it's only because someone we know is just like gone, oh, what? I have to sign in to chat? Yes, you have to sign in to chat.
yes,
In YouTube. You have to have an account with, I don't know, I was about to say something weird and random like Techno Satan.
which was the same though.
Yeah. Well, it's 7:30. Let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wow, it's been... I don't even remember, actually. I'm going to quickly go and content. The last video we did was in September 21st, 2021. If we just...
So over a full year.
Yeah, everyone's going to get a weird view of an oversized web browser. Bam. That was a while ago. I'm not sure if just outright sharing the channel dashboard like that is a good idea.
It's okay, you didn't share it because all we can see is the video still.
Because I haven't changed it. Oh,
So
that's
you haven't
brilliant.
Changed the scene.
Bam, there we go.
Remember how to live stream?
I've changed the scene. I forgot that you have to change the scenes. Right. That's how good I am at this. It's been September 2021, so the better part of 2 years. And do you know how many times in that 2 years we were like, oh yeah, we're going to start streaming again. We're going to start streaming again. And we just never did it. Just dates flew by. They make quite a nice sound as they go whoosh. And then randomly, I think it was last week, I was like, let's just do it. We've been doing some stuff in the background. Oh yeah, definitely professionals. Definitely professionals. If you are listening only via audio, I can see the chat, and therefore when you hear no context comments, it's probably me responding to the chat. All right. So, we're back to it. Our box today is... Let's just jump straight in. We can banter at the end and as we go and the whole way. So our box today is called Precious. Hence the fun title of the stream. So hopefully that is showing up. Boldly doxing my HTB username, which is fine. I use it in a bunch of places. It's been out for a while. It's retired, but it's not one of the free ones, so that kind of means that unless you have a paid HTB account, you can't do it, but you can listen along. And if you have a paid HTB account and you want to do it, you can do it. Otherwise, you can just how we fail to do things. Didn't spend the most amount of time going over our notes, so you're going to see an element of a man in deep crisis as what he thought would work doesn't work. And also you'll note that I have the unorthodox approach of I don't use Kali, I use a Debian WSL container, as you can see here. I've got my OpenVPN to hack the box. I've got Burp Suite started up. I'm on an Ultride monitor, so you just wait until you see me dropping and dragging stuff in. So let's get started. So our IP address is 10.10.11.189. So I'm just going to go IP equals that. And hope I did that correctly. I'm just going to do a quick. Of course, that's not going to work. There we go. Boldly demonstrating my expertise with the terminal. Right. So we've got the IP squared away. Let me go to the notes. So generally, as usual, our first step is an Nmap scan. Quite conveniently, this box came up with the same IP address as is defined in our Nmap scan. So I can just hit run. And then we wait for the Nmap scan. I probably should have pre-gamed this bit.
That's all right. It shouldn't take too long.
There we go.
But yeah, I'm calling it cough suite instead of burp suite.
Yeah. I swear it's not COVID, guys. Do you remember when we did a stream just as COVID was starting, and I think you had a cough, and you were like, "Oh, I've got that cough, but it's not the one that's been going around."
Yeah.
That aged well.
We didn't want to name it. We just
now I've got a cough, but it wasn't COVID. Anyway, so we've got port 22 as usual with these things. Port 22 is like for later. It's never the thing you just get to go for straight away. And port 80. Now let's go and have a squiz at port 80. So pull in Firefox. This is running in my WSL container. Again, high quality stream with my coughing. And we're just going to go... we're going to run the Nmap scan in Firefox. No, we're not. I'll just... there we go. And it redirects us to precious.hdb. So I try going to the IP address, redirects us to precious.hdb, which is a common thing you see in these arrangements. So we're just going to go sudo nano etc host, if I can spell hosts properly, and we put in our password, which is super secure. It's fine, it's a WSL container. And we're going to go... Jake, what was the IP again? I've got it. 10.10.11.189. And then we're going to go...
Yeah, so this shows you the delay.
Oh, wow.
We're only just getting the comments about the COVID.
Oh, of course. So yes, so YouTube has a reasonable delay. So yeah,
there's an option to change that, but you have to stop and restart the stream to fix it. So we'll have to deal with that for stream number 2.
It's fine. It's only Benjamin Franklin. It's not like he's particularly up with the times.
No, exactly.
Yeah, Norton. I bet you Symantec, as they were burning, because they were a burning ship that sank. It was funny watching that happen I was at a client that was maybe purchasing a Symantec product just as Symantec got bought by Broadcom, and then Broadcom immediately regretted what they'd purchased and split up Symantec and tried to divest. They probably would have tried to say that Symantec, which was what Norton became, could cure COVID. Anyway, so moving onwards, because the stream's already going massively off topic. We've updated our hosts file. I should use Vim. It is the superior text editor. But anyway, so I've updated our hosts file. So now we should be able to come back and go and convert a web page to a PDF. So just for example's sake, I'm just going to give it itself and hope that... Oh, wait a second. This might recurse into Oblivion, I just realized. Oh, good. It does time out. We'll just give it google.com. Oh. I don't know if these things can access the internet.
No.
No, they can't. Okay, so I'm going to quickly just go from my directory I'm in. Let's go to streams, Precious, and go that, and then just go touch test, and then Python. Is it simple? No, it's just
It's http.server.
http.server.
Yeah.
And then the port, right?
Yep. Or you can leave it as 8085.
I probably should try and figure out what my IP is as well.
No,
that's my that's PowerShell. Go away, PowerShell. On Debian. I'm going to go IP address. I've since kicked the habit of typing ifconfig. Nice. And my VPN IP is... Why can't I see it? It's not the 172. That's weird. Half a second while I figure out why I can't see my own IP.
It should be the ton0 one, right?
Yeah, ton0. Oh, yeah, there it is. The DOI right in front of my eyes.
Touch and Python uttered in a bit close together there.
Oh no. Oh boy. This is a family stream. Even though YouTube makes you mark stuff not made for children so that you don't get that stupid like thing. All right. So 8085. So we're gonna go HTTP. I'm gonna go 8085. And bam. So what is returned is a PDF. You see that up here of just my the quick server I just created. Well, the handiness of the Python kind of like HTTP server stuff. So just whack that off to the side again while we figure out what's next. So converting files to PDFs, actually bring that right back over. That's how with it I am. So this presents us an interesting situation because anything that takes user input and tries to convert it to something else could potentially be a vector for fun. So maybe the thing doing the PDF parsing like has ways to break out of it and get arbitrary code execution. That's the main thing I'm thinking of, to be honest, but there might be other scenarios. PDFs are also complicated things to generate, so it could be likely that the logic's wrong or it's designed to let you inline stuff to execute. So when we were doing this box, we spent a bunch of time poking around. So one of the things we do, and I'm just going to go to... So I've got...
There's also only so many libraries that typically do like PDF conversions and things like that. And when it comes down to, depending on what language the app is running on, that can limit the libraries even further.
Yeah. So I'm just firing up Burp and I'm going to run that again. And here we go, precious.htb. Realized that for some reason it... Yes, repeat the action. Give me something. Right, so if we go to Burp, you can see that was my request to Google because it repeated the previous request. What we're going to do is we're going to go to a fresh version of Precious and then look at that. So we don't get anything useful in the headers. Oh no, we do. Runtime, Ruby. There we go. Nginx and Ruby. So if it's Ruby and it's a PDF converter, that should give us some pretty good Googlage. We are going to accelerate this a bit by not spending forever trying to figure out which it is. But if we go Ruby PDF converter library, or if you're following along at home, just enter that into ChatGPT and you will probably get a more useful answer than Google can give you these days. That was the other thing that happened during COVID. Google took a nosedive. Like it's like just on the street unconscious. And we're all like, are you okay, Google?
Pretty much, yeah.
We'll do what I normally like to do and just add Stack Overflow to the search. That's PDF to HTML. HTML page to PDF converter for Ruby. So it says, hey, you should use PDFKit, which is very convenient for where we're going to go next, because then we can just go, let's search for PDFKit vulnerability. naturally, depending on the language and the runtime, you might not stumble across the... Actually, there's one that hopefully we can do when it goes to, like, retired, where we can talk a bit about how we thought a particular vulnerability related to one particular library with a particular name from a particular language, and it actually related to a library with a similar name and the confusion therein, but...
Well, don't get too specific.
Yeah, not wanting to talk about active boxes. I'm going to have to say at some point there was a vulnerability somewhere on the internet. Command injection with PDF-Kit. This basically looks like what our problem is. Could be, I should say. So they've given us... Sorry, that was a cough.
The sponsored content ChatGPT comment is the Bing AI or something, isn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah. Exactly. But the Bing AI... Sorry, this stream is full of diversions.
It's going to be.
This is how quality we are.
It's because of the insane latency. We have to keep going back to topics to stay relevant with our...
Yeah. No, if the whole internet is a vulnerability, or if vulnerabilities... It's like that, if everything's on fire, nothing's on fire. It's like, well, if everything's vulnerable, nothing's vulnerable. Why patch? The attackers, it's a target-rich environment. What's the chance they're going to go after you? Said Optus, right before they got hacked. Anyway, so back to PDF-Kit. So we've got a little POC. So it looks like you can give it a URL, and there's some funky business going on here. So it looks like we can give it just arbitrary commands, which is curious. Application could be vulnerable if it tries to render a URL that contains query string parameters with user input. As you can tell, like back in the day, we actually used to rerun this right before we streamed, and as you can tell, we've really upped our game by YOLOing everything. No, it was only because we decided to do this at the last minute. Anyway, so this POC is suggesting that this example is suggesting that we just run sleep 5 and see what happens. But we have another one that we came up with. Let me find it in our write-up. When I find it in the write-up.
We just swapped it out to a Who Am I?
Yeah. It's in there somewhere. And what you've done, Jake, is you've copied the image with your POC string when you did this, not the actual text.
Yeah. Well, you've already got the...
so it's fine.
Have the text in there.
People are getting a live type. Mate, I don't like to type. Just like some people don't like running, i.e. me, I also don't like typing.
Just copy-paste from the POC and then replace it with Who Am I?
Typing's for chumps. Chumps, not chums. And then, who am I? Who are me? Who am I?
Who are me?
And then let's see what we get. We wait with anticipation. Let me double check. Did I turn off? No, it's still running.
You do? I don't think you didn't do the... Oh no, you did the backtick. Sorry.
Yeah, backtick.
It's just catching up. It's too blurry in my other stream.
That's right. Everyone's like 20 seconds delayed.
Yeah.
This is some riveting streamage going on here. It's like, I should learn to touch type someday.
Do you have is Intercept on, or is Python still? Do you still Python running?
No, I kept Python running, and Intercept is not on. I turned off the proxy. I turned off the I know why. That's because I typed your IP address instead of mine. From when you did it.
Or you straight from the writer.
Oh, mate. I'm going to say something, no plan survives first contact with the something. 1427. Okay, let's try that again. This is why we didn't do a ton of advertising for this. The first one is going to be rough, and boy, it could be worse. Okay, and then it's just backtick. Who am I? Backtick. Who are me? Backtick. And there we go. We get
better.
a directory listing. I would have. We don't get anything useful.
Basically, we can see instead of the word "who am I," we get the result of the command.
Oh, Ruby, yes. Directory listing for. Oh, that's yep. I love it. I love that you saw that and I completely missed it. It's like, wait, I thought it was meant to show up somewhere. Why isn't this just easy? Okay, so from here, this should be pretty straightforward to continue onwards. So again, we've got a dependency that happens to have a pretty bad vulnerability. And it's interesting, you kind of go back 5 years and everything was about, patch your operating system, patch that, patch this. But now everything's kind of moved into the world of containers and Lambda functions. And even servers are behind like API gateways or reverse proxies or WAFs or whatever. Like, stuff's moved up to like the application level. And like WAFs, sure, you end up with WAF rules pretty quick to offset some of this stuff. But this is why like keeping dependencies up to date is important. But I feel like, in the early 2010s, you'd get organizations. I worked for a bank. How many servers do you have? And they go, how many zeros is too many to stick on this number? And then you go, wait, you got to worry about trying to patch like thousands of servers, some of which no one even knows why they're there or what they do or what the password is. And they're on the internet and they're supporting some critical system. Now that problem's moved to, like, thanks to microservices, how many repos you have? And they go, well, how many zeros is too many to stick on this number? And keeping everything up to date. Plus, now I'm getting into a little bit of a Reese's rant here, aren't I? But the idea, these organizations, they have like 3-month release processes while they claim to be agile and DevOpsy. And so their velocity is really slow. And so the idea is in agile, DevOps, whatever, your velocity is how fast you can introduce change to the environment. So that classic Etsy, we release, 6 times a day or 20 or however many, means if there's a vulnerability that comes out for something, they can just patch it because they'll have the testing processes to check if the patch has broken something, figure out what's broken and get it fixed real quick. Wasn't it a 3-month release process? You find out something's broken in testing and then everyone drags their feet because they don't want to go back to an app change they made 6 weeks ago to update a dependency and rerun the regression test. And so that's like whenever people talk about going agile, I go, well, make sure you if you're not going to create an environment where you can support fast change, even if you're regulated, you support fast change in your pre-production environment and then occasionally release to production, right? Anyway, rant over.
I think that was a pretty good one though.
Yeah. Anyway, moving onwards. So, right. Next step, reverse shell. So I just realized people listened to me talk while there was just a random web page, PDF. Right. So our reverse shell, we're going to run it on, let's say 9,000. So we're going to use the venerable netcat, give it a bunch of flags. I always forget what they mean. Something about listening and not doing DNS and some other jazz.
Yeah, the N is don't do DNS, the L is listen, the V is the verbosity.
Yeah.
And the P is the port number you want to listen on.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, technically,
who cares? Hacked about. Server. Right.
The script kitty it up.
And then let me get our happy little Bob Ross, our happy little attack string. I say attack string. I don't know if that's the right way to call these things. I just like giving things random names. Right.
You will have to change the IP address in there to be yours.
I was quite clever in that I only copied the part of the attack string after the IP. So
nice.
So while we're doing firing up Python.
No.
Yeah.
That's not
1427. That's my IP address.
Yeah, but that's not where you still want it to hit your Python web server.
Do I? Oh, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
My
Yeah,
bad. I changed the wrong bit, guys.
yeah, you did.
80, 85.
Lucky
Python.
one of us ain't no
Okay, well,
script
I'm going to
kiddie,
run us
actually.
through the string. There we go.
There's another IP address and port in
Yeah. I
the.
forgot that, yes, we want it to hit our website so it's got something valid to talk to and not go, no, I can't reach your website. But then this bit of code here runs separately. So we're inlining some Python, which is what -c does. So if you hop on to your terminal of choice and you just go something like Python -c and then type in something, it'll run it in line. That's all this is doing. Socket subprocess so that it doesn't get nuked if the parent process, which is Ruby, decides to end. OS for various OS utility functions. And then what we're doing is going, hey, create a outbound TCP stream, connect to my IP address, which I'm gonna just have to quickly double check again.
I'll just preface this with, in between the who am I and this, there was also a bunch of enumeration around figuring out, which Python is running, all of that kind of stuff.
Yes,
so that we could make this end.
Normally you'd sit there and you go, right, yeah, what Python versions do I have available, if at all? Sometimes randomly you stumble across like PHP as a command line utility in these CTFs. I say that, I actually haven't seen that in ages, but yeah, all sorts. Is it GTFO bins? One of those ones has a whole bunch of things to try for getting reverse shell. So .27, and then I chose. I should have done 9001 for the obvious joke. Anyway, moving on. And then we're just doing some stuff to make sure that I always forget what os.dupe does, but yeah, that's right. So that we can interact with this bin sh we're calling. I think this is so that it does that whole pipe arrangement, getting into the deep lore. And we run bin sh interactive, and if I hit submit, we should see, hey, a reverse shell. I was about to type clear, and that's not what you want to type.
No.
Well, actually, it wouldn't do anything. It'd just error, right? Just YOLO, clear. Yeah, it just goes, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, because we haven't set up. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a ghetto shell. So this is where, you don't get the ability to pass through commands, Control C, anything that hogs the terminal. Yeah, you can't end without
not
your connection.
Stream or Tmux or any
screen.
Sorry.
So this is where we do a bit of a shell upgrade. So we run Python again. So we're going to use Python's Python terminal library to spawn a better shell for us. Bam, and already we get a better looking shell. That looks more like Bash. We're going to Control Z, and that did not work. Jake, why didn't that work? Oh no, it did work. It suspended.
I was going to say, this will be interesting to see if it works with WSL. I assume it would be the same.
This is Bash. I thought for a second I nuked the session, and then I realized, I backgrounded Netcat.
Yeah.
All right, and then we're going to change our terminal to raw, so that we can. Basically, that means for what we're trying to do, we'll get pass through for Control C and stuff like that. It probably does way more complex stuff in the background, but effectively, it means our local terminal ignores stuff. So this particular terminal instance gets effectively nuked, and now, there we go. Now I can go. Well, I still can't go clear, but it means I shouldn't bin myself. Okie dokie. So now we're up to the bit where the notes we took are high quality and obvious. It's an interesting line replacing the PDF X if creator value.
So that was basically.
Oh, right.
In the source code of the web app, it manually adds some metadata to the PDF generated, which says generated by PDFkit and a version number that is lower than the SNCC command injection page that we discovered.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if we can find it, just so we can all have a look at it. I'm pretty sure it's this one because, you know, a name like
It's the only one that is.
pdf.rb, I wonder if that has anything useful in it. And what we have is, yes, this bit makes sense. So it was this line here, right? So effectively, we're overriding this thing so that. So did you say this is a version that's lower than or higher?
Yeah, so on the SNCC page it says any version of PDFKit lower than 8.7.2, and
right,
that's saying it
and
was
so
generated by
so what we've got is a
8.6.
dev that's like, no, I don't want to update the dependency. What I'm going to do is make it look like I've got a newer version. Which I guess at that point you're stretching what devs would do because, like, if they're not going to bother to update the dependency, they're certainly not going to bother to fake updating the dependency. I don't know. Maybe they work at a bank and they didn't want to do the regression testing. All right. We're going to do a bit of a look at the password file. As usual, cat etc password. Handy thing to always have a look at. This Laurel user, I wonder if this is like the person who creates these boxes. That's because we did another one with _Laurel that was just there. Either that or it's some like utility that I don't know about. I'm just going to check the
It is
comments.
under 1,000, so
Just checking the comments. Man, Ben Franklin's really on fire today. Stop pretending there was a plan. We've never been pretending there was a plan. I can't see any problem. Yeah. Okay. It's nothing particularly useful from Benjamin Franklin.
no, never.
For context, he's a friend of mine who has a pseudonym. It's not the actual Benjamin Franklin. As we know, he died by electrocution by playing around with lightning. That's totally what happened, right? Or was he the
Pretty
guy
sure.
who had an axe and a cherry tree and then the axe got hit by lightning? I don't know American history. I don't think I need to worry about it. Hot takes.
He
from
discovered
Reese.
that electricity has gravity.
Yeah.
Something.
yeah. Anyway, enough memeing. Right. So I just figured I probably should zoom in a bit. Right. Anyway, so we've got this user Henry though. This is our interesting user. So normally users above 1,000 are going to be things created after like the operating system kind of installed itself. So stuff under 1,000 tends to be built-in services or common services. Ruby's 1,001, which was the user we currently are, as you can see. So our next step is to figure out how we get to Henry. So what we're going to do is going to go cat. Actually, we'll do the enumeration thing. We'll cd home Henry, and we'll do an ls, and we note that there is a user.txt, but we can't view it. As you can see,
Henry.
Owner can read write, the group the owner's in can read, everyone else can get effed. So the general way to read these, like the first four, the first three are the owner of the file. So if it's root, like it is in this case, so root obviously set this file. Then the group of the owner, which is Henry. Yeah, I'm reading that right. And then that's everyone else world. So there's a basic run through of Unix permissions. Funnily enough, behind the scenes, low key hot take, Linux Unix style permissions at this level aren't that great. Like they're not particularly fine grained. Which is why you have things like SE Linux and AppArmor and all of that jazz that tries to work, and capabilities that all try to an extent work around that. So we're going to have to try and get to Henry. So just having a bit of a look at what we have for notes so that I don't have to worry about doing a bunch of stuff.
If we head to our own home directory, that's where we find something.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to go to Notepad just to put in some of the stuff from our notes, just to show.
Oh, okay. Right.
So, you've already, yeah, okay. No, I see where we're going. I'm great at planning. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our own home directory. This was found, I think, in LinPs, which is what we'd ended up using just to find stuff, but don't need to worry about doing that here.
Yeah, so there's a section of LinPs which talks about non-standard files and directories in user home directories.
Yeah.
And basically this came up in that little section.
Yeah. So what we have is the bundle. That's right. So bundle is like Ruby stuff. It's like, I think the Ruby package. No, Gem's the Ruby package manager, but I think bundles there's something to do with Ruby. I don't know much about Ruby. I was born in the wrong generation to really care about Ruby. It's a hot take. Sorry, you are Ruby aficionados. And sorry about the ding sound in the background that I need to turn off every time I screw up.
One of my first jobs out of uni was as a Ruby developer, but that only lasted about 3 months.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Would you look at this? I mean, I guess I don't know why your config would have a username. Oh, maybe this is like for logging into the Ruby Gems thing. I don't know. But either way, it looks like we have a username and password. So now we go. Yeah, just wait. My inbox. Yeah. Give me half a second. Let me go to control panel, and let me go to sounds. Yeah. Again, quality stream. I've completely forgotten. Thanks Windows 10 for like hiding all the useful control panel stuff. View by category, small icons. Here we go. Sorry, I'm doing this on another monitor. Do you know what the thing's called for sounds? Oh, I have sound. I found it. Sounds. Sound scheme. No sounds. Apply. Done. No more terminal binging every time I mess up. It's like that episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if you've seen it. The one where he's like doing Family Feud and there's a sound at the end and he keeps freaking out. That's what it felt like. And for some reason I opened PowerShell again. Right. So we want to go and SSH in. Sorry, someone in a separate chat mechanism just told me that Ruby is objectively better and better designed than Python. But like, yes, but which one is actually used more? I'm just joking. Ruby's perfectly fine. It's what not Metasploit's written in. Anyway, so I'm gonna go and SSH to the server IP address. So pretty sure I can just go IP from the one before, and it's going to be Henry at.
Yeah, so this is where we're taking those creds. We could just switch user straight up into them, but we figured we'd try SSH because then we get a nicer terminal.
And I've forgotten how to get... Don't worry, it's either brackets or curly braces. Or it's the fact that I'm in a new terminal window and the environment variable I did earlier is not there.
It could also be that.
Oh, but I set the domain name. Okay. So SSH Henry at precious.htb. This is this is maybe another hot take. Maybe there are some pros out there, but this is like day to day on the job going, I know how to do this. Why have I forgotten how to do this? Okay, and Henry's password was going to be that one we found earlier.
It sure is.
Just going to copy it from my notes. Sorry, I just coughed straight into the microphone, so sorry about that for your eardrums, everybody. And what we're going to do, head. And is it -C?
Yeah, head -C for characters.
And we're just going to go 5, and we're going to go user.text. Yeah, that's right. This jank thing when you do that with head.
Yeah,
if you want to get the user.text, go do the box in HTTP. But we've got user.text. So now we got to figure out what we need to do. So as you know, clear now works so that I can keep my terminal nice and clean. For reference, clear doesn't actually get rid of the terminal history. It just, pretty sure if I can't scroll up in this one, but some terminals you can scroll up and see everything that was there before. Right. So we're going to do... Naturally, at this point, we might normally redo all of the enumeration we did as the previous user. So you might check, like, what files and stuff we can now access. You might do find and look for things with capabilities that we might not have been able to see as Ruby. All of that jazz. Jumping forward is one of the things that we often do first, that I like doing, is just seeing what we can do as sudo. So sudo no password means we don't actually have to know his password, or the password of the account. So maybe that indicates there's meant to be a path where you can get Henry without logging in again. I don't know. But we can run that without having to actually enter his password again. And what can we run? Update dependencies. Now,
and realistically, sudo is probably one of the things that we check before we even start enumerating the file system and stuff, because it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Whereas file system stuff is a lot more time consuming.
We talk about the idea that, you look for the, like, as a matter of, like, keeping skills kind of fresh or behaviors fresh, going right. What is the stuff that's easy to do manually? So checking sudo, checking capabilities, checking sticky bits, all that stuff that it's good to just know how to do yourself, because you can't always shove linps or linenum on a server. In a pen test, sometimes it's explicitly forbidden. Like, you can't use tools like that. Sometimes it's really noisy and easy to detect. So it depends on the use case. And by the time you're running linenum, I'd be like, just go and run one of the like CIS benchmark scripts that'll tell you everything that's wrong with the server, because it'll probably tell you more than linenum. But that's our normal steps, is manually search around until maximum frustration is reached and then run linps.
Pretty much.
So it's all right to end up having to use it, but it's good to try naturally first. Let me just get this out of here. Right, so we can run update dependencies, and we're running the Ruby binary and then the update dependency script as a part of that, and so it's just the command that's run.
Yep.
So let's go and have a look at what update dependencies does.
And usually with sudo, when it has the full path like that, you have to run it with the full path like that too. Like, you can't just do Ruby then / opt update dependencies.
So what I've done is I've just catted the Ruby binary and then the script. Just keeping myself on my toes. Right. So what this thing's doing is Ruby Gems is the Ruby package dependency installer. YAML is obviously just a library that helps you parse YAML files. So what are we doing? We've got update gems, which just seems to not really do anything. I guess this is just like a dummy script to do stuff. It's not actually an official Ruby thing. List from file. So we read dependencies.yaml, we load it, and then list local gems, where I'm just having to read. Right. It's often start at the bottom where the stuff actually runs and then follow the things up. Again, I'm not an expert in Ruby. So file name, file version, gems local each do, local name, local version. If file name equals local name, if file version, installed version. Okay, so we're just checking if the installed version differs from the one specified in the YAML file, is what all that ends up doing. And I'm guessing said person I know who happens to lament the slow demise of Ruby, does Ruby just implicitly return, like, so this YAML.load thing, does Ruby just implicitly return whatever like the last function kind of return was, rather than needing an explicit statement? Because there's some stuff like other languages that do that. This is why it's good to kind of have a rough idea of how languages work as a security person. Otherwise, you might go, it doesn't return anything. What's that doing? Anyway, we're going to move on because that was another random comment. So, yeah, it reads a YAML file. So it looks like potentially what this is an RCE using... I'm going to go out on a limb and say untrusted input. And yes, you can have untrusted input from the same host that the thing runs on. Like, you know, in a layered security, the idea is as well, how do I know that this file's good? And how can I validate the file's good before I pass it off to this YAML function? Yeah, and the last statement in a block is what gets, like, the output from that is what gets returned. All right, so what we're going to do is have a look at, I'm going to copy, I want to copy this link. Sorry, drama happening off screen, everyone. I say off screen, out of the thing. So, universal RCE with Ruby YAML.load, remote code execution for those of you who are less familiar with all of this. Eltham's actually, I think, a Melbourne-based security company, which is funny because there's a suburb called Eltham in Melbourne where it's like a H instead. Never mind. Sorry, it's just one of those things, you know, that I always notice. So... since my Ruby skills aren't that great and I'm lazy speaking my language, so he's obviously tried to take this other guy's work and expand upon it, and like the joys you can have, you'll learn a lot by trying to hack work up. For the purposes of this stream, we're just going to get to the point as we go through. So there's a bunch of Ruby equivalent. When we get around to doing a write-up, you'll have a link to read this and go into detail. But effectively, RCE and YAML.load. And where are we? For the YAML payload, unfortunately, there's a new YAML.dump, so the requirements will need to be initialized. Another way, the created YAML does not provide us with it. Sorry, I've gone from let's just make this quick to I'm curious about how this actually works. So strap in, everyone. This could get boring real fast. So let's have a look at this Eltham blog post. Introduction. So exploit of arbitrary deserialization for the Ruby programming language. Serialization. Oh yeah, so I was actually going to explain serialization than he did. So that's just where you take an object, make it bytes, whether you're storing that in a file or streaming it across a network, and then deserializing. So one of the classic problems with serializing and deserializing is what you serialize might not be what gets deserialized on the other end, or if it's asynchronous, or the idea is program one takes an object, serializes it to a bunch of bytes, and program two deserializes it. So if it was a Python pickle or a Java serialized class, on the way, what if I just changed the serialized class to something malicious? These are problems that have, I think, been solved in Java and the .NET equivalents. Python pickles still aren't great to use, which is why, like, you know, all those fun LLM and other AI models that are bloody pickle files. And so that's, I think, what this vulnerability relates to, is something to do with deserializing this YAML file, or something to do with what we can do with doing stuff with this gem module and deserializing stuff. Is my high-level assumption based on what I'm seeing. Again, don't want to bore everyone to death by trying to go through it in detail. But that's, I think, what's happening. So the offset is pretty obvious. We're not going to get an RCE from just doing that. Anyway. I'm spending too much time talking about this already. So effectively, where we get to is we have a proof of concept somewhere in here. So the idea is I'm pretty sure when we get to the actual proof of concept, actually, I'll copy the one from our notes. It'll be quicker.
It's a link to a GIST payload at the bottom.
Oh, right. Okay, we'll go to that. This. So looking at it, which one have we got? First one? Second one. So it looks like this is trying to be a YAML file, but it's a YAML file that has Ruby in it. So I'm guessing what happens is this thing will try and parse the YAML file and also run the Ruby. So yeah, that looks like it's... Yeah, anyway, let's see what happens. So where's the YAML file that we're loading? Is it just from the same directory that I'm in, or does it have to be?
No, so this is where that was the assumption, that it had to be in the same directory as the binary itself. But reading the Ruby doco, it actually reads from the current working directory.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure, given it just has in that code, it just goes file.read dependencies.yaml without specifying anything. It'll run from your current working directory. So let me go dependencies.yaml, which is just what we needed, another markup language. And I always go in Nano, I always go WQ, realize that doesn't work. Then, Control X, and then realize that I saved the WQ, and then I have to go back in. Right. Okay. So dependencies.yaml. So now we can go back to our sudo-l. So I feel like I'm spending a lot of time talking, and not enough time doing. So we're going to run this. We'll just do this the lazy way and copy, and we'll just go sudo, paste, and then... Did it work? I don't think it worked. So I'm just having a quick look at our notes. We did this a while ago.
We did do this a while ago.
Henry at precious sudo user bin Ruby reading not found. Right. System no implicit conversion of nil to string. I probably messed up the copy and paste bit. I'm assuming. Because, oh no, it worked. UID root, GID root, groups root. It worked. And then it prompted to promptly errored. So now we just need to go back in. Dependencies.yaml. This is also the other... I guess this is a good thing about doing a slightly looser, less prepared run-through. It's like a mini version of what us actually doing this in our own times where we just go, why isn't this working? And it's worked. So let me go. Right. There is a line to change in here now. The git set ID line, right? That looks like it's doing something nice. So let's YOLO this. Let's just run bash. Don't record a macro. Exit. Yes.
Yeah, we didn't put this part in the write-up.
So what I'm doing is sudo apt install vim. Right at the end of... Oh wait, my bad. Of course, I'm on the server, not on my WSL container. Anyway, I've done that, and we're just going to run our sudo, and bam. I mean, I guess our username's already there, but root, and then if we go cd to root, and then cat, head, C5, and then echo a new line. And then that didn't do it. Why didn't that do what I wanted it to do, Jake? I was like, make a new line. Anyway. Oh, bash isn't cooperating with this. Also, I'm not giving it the file. The DOI.
That will probably also do it.
Yeah. So what I've just done is I'm at the end of the stream and I've completely forgotten how to IT.
So we still have... Yeah, you're essentially running bash in Ruby, which is...
Yeah. So we're running... So we've kind of had our shell semi-downgraded again.
Yeah.
Apparently this is on a separate chat channel, but white backgrounds are blinding, so I can torture people going, pleasant, ouch, pleasant, ouch. This is also Firefox running in my WSL container, so yes, I can. It's probably up to date. I can change the theme. Anyway, so
still use like Dark Reader or something on it.
Yeah. So we've gotten to the end of this box. Thank you for wading through this painful process with me of me going, how do we do this? The notes aren't very good. So that's aimed at both of us. That's not a criticism of Jake or myself directly. It's a shared we.
It's probably a criticism of the process. We could take better notes in the first place.
We sometimes do. We sometimes don't. It just depends on the mood. It just depends on how much we hate our future selves.
It really does depend on the mood.
So let's run through this from the start. We have the convert to... Okay, so we did an Nmap scan, which is back here. Once I kill the reverse shell. I don't know where the Nmap scan results are.
Did you ON it at the start?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere.
They probably ended up back out here. Yeah. So we did our Nmap scan, and we had port 22 and port 80. Pretty basic. Port 22, again, most ETFs, that's not what you're meant to go with first. That's for the kind of getting user and moving on from there. After that, we kind of went and had a look, and we found our website with the high quality convert PDF thing with our vulnerability. So you can see here. So if you just give it something in backticks, it will just run it. I guess that'd be interesting to read up on exactly why that works the way it works. When it's with a language I'm familiar with, like Java, I can go, oh yeah, I know why that works, but I don't know much about Ruby. After that, we got our reverse shell, which is here somewhere. We looked around, and from our reverse shell, we found that file that had... so the bundle config file that had Henry's username. I'm guessing it's meant to be like some server that you have to authenticate to get your Ruby gems. And he reused his username and password, which is, I guess, why secrets management's a good idea if you're a developer and you kind of at build time. A ghetto approach, if that's all you can do that works at build time, is you just have some token here, curly brace, credentials go here, curly brace, and then in the build pipeline you just temporarily replace that just for the build with credentials from a secrets manager if your particular script can't use a secrets manager, and then it gets thrown away once you've done the build. But also people who reuse. I've seen it before, people have domain accounts and they use that in a build pipeline, and so their domain creds are just in code, and you're like, my dude, what is your username and password doing in this thing? Anyway, we use those to SSH in, and then from there we found that we could run this command as sudo. This happens to take advantage of some funky... I'm guessing this is for this particular version of Ruby, some funky way of parsing a YAML file. And what you end up with is code execution in that YAML file, the way it deserializes there. Yeah, I guess because YAML files and JSON files are a serialization of data. It's just not byte stream. It's ASCII characters. And then we got root. So that's the fun. So now we can have the end of stream bans. I mean, we've got, 3 minutes? Normally keep it to an hour, 90 minutes at most. So this was a nice tidy hour. So yes, we're planning on being back. So I'm just looking at the YouTube comments because they disappeared behind the notes I had. So Perl apparently has a thing with backticks where it just basically goes, run a shell command here, and whether Ruby's got that same thing. And for the Python pickles, there's things like Cloud Pickle. If you're playing around with various AI models for stuff, the safe tensors versions are better than the C. I've always thought of them as checkpoint files, but the CKPT or the Python pickles. There's a few different things. Anyway, so yeah, planning on kind of getting back to this, hopefully on a weekly basis. Maybe at the start it'll be fortnightly, because we've got to build up more of a backlog than we have. But I feel like if we go fortnightly, we won't be consistent. So let's go with weekly, Jake.
Yeah, so we don't have a huge backlog at the moment, so we'll have to get on that, and hopefully we can make it weekly again.
Yeah, and as we start getting smoother again, like there was a point when we were doing it regularly that I thought we were really, maybe this is just me, but I thought we were actually really smooth. There wasn't a lot of awkward stuff.
It's not a big deal for all the easy boxes like this, but then we need to get a backlog of all these easy boxes so that when we work on the harder ones that take 2 or 3 weeks to do, then we're not too screwed.
Yeah, so hopefully tune in next week. It might have to occasionally switch from a Tuesday to a Thursday, depending on schedules, because life as an adult is like that. So as we get a better routine, a better communication, we'll start to go, hey, we'll be streaming on this day or this day. But yeah, that's it. We're back to it. Finally. After almost 2 years.
That's it.
All right.
Better late than never.
I think with that, I'm going to play the title screen again.
Nice.
Just so that you can...
Bye, everyone.
Bye.